Falcons, thanks for being with us for another Tune In Tuesday episode. Those of you hoping to declare your major before fall registration begins, this episode is for you. We have a panel of current Falcons joining us to discuss the process and the resources they use to find their academic home at the RIV. Let's get started. I'm really excited about today's topic, finding and thriving in your major at the RIV, because it's something that's so important and applies to every single student. So today we have two current students joining us, along with the exploratory advisor on campus. So we'll get started with some introductions and then do a deep dive into how you find your major and then get to the point that you're thriving in it. So I'm McKenna. I'm the Tune In Tuesday host, a familiar face, and I work in career services.
I am Jessica. I work in the Student Success Center at the RIV. We do a lot of things in the Student Success Center. One of my favorites is advising the exploratory students. I have done my fair share of exploring in my college and professional career. So I started out as a social work major, changed to early childhood education, finally settled into writing in the English department, did a couple jobs related to writing, did graduate school, and then started in higher education as an instructor. So I taught composition, creative writing, all types of writing. Realized that what I loved the most was the one-on-one interaction with students. So got into advising. Since then have worked in academic success, advising, writing centers, career services right before this job. So I love working with students who are exploring, and I'm very excited to hear more about both Catherine and Carter's exploratory journeys. So we're going to kick it off with the first question, and that will allow our panelists to introduce themselves. So our first question, what is your major? And if you've still not declared a major, what are the top contenders for you at this point? Catherine, go ahead. We'll start.
Hi, my name is Catherine. I am a senior at the UWRF. I actually just transferred here last year, and I'm an environmental science major.
Hi, my name is Carter. I am a current junior and a double major in business admin finance and economics.
So Carter, I'm curious if you could start with talking about what your major exploration process looked like and what resources you used to help learn about options at UW River Falls.
So when I first started on campus, I started just as my first major. It was admin finance. I was taking a lot of my general classes at the time to kind of narrow down if I wanted to do a double major. It was kind of something that was turning in my head for a while, but I never really decided on what I wanted to do. When I took my Econ 201 and 202 class, I really took interest in the subject. It was really interesting in kind of how it operated. And I wanted to kind of explore more into the subject. So I kind of talked to my professor more and more about it, about opportunities, what the subject matter looked like, and it really interested me and kind of narrowed down. I wanted to kind of take this more on, even just as an addition to what my current major is. And after talking with her for a couple of weeks, I settled on, you know what, time to double major.
So my process was a little bit out of the ordinary. So I started off at community college because I didn't exactly know what my major was. So I was undeclared for a couple of years, but I knew I was interested in life science.
Open-minded, Catherine.
Yeah, I knew I was interested in like biology and life sciences, but I didn't know like what career path I wanted to take because there's so many options. You know, there's like, you know, if you did bio, you could do med school or microbiology or, you know, anything. So actually at my community college, I I had a job doing, I stumbled into a job doing prairie restoration, and I thought that was really interesting. And that kind of led me to enjoy like resource management type stuff. And so when I was looking for colleges that I wanted to transfer to, I was looking for colleges that had environmental sciences, had resource management. And so I went from biology to a little bit more like narrowed down in terms of like actual majors. And then finally, when I came here, I talked to actually the head of the environmental sciences department and a couple of the professors, and they were kind of explaining to me like the different types of environmental science and, you know, which majors, whether to take conservation. And I eventually decided on environmental science just because it was kind of the broader version of conservation. And then I could add on a minor if I wanted to, so.
Did you add on a minor?
I haven't yet, but I'm considering doing a conservation minor.
Nice. Good.
Great. Thank you. You touched on this a little bit in your response to the last question, but can you tell us a little bit more about when you knew you were ready to declare a major? Was there an aha moment for you, or did you just kind of come to the point where you decided you needed to make a decision?
Truthfully, a little bit of both. Like I said, when I transferred here, I was a junior. So I was like, okay, junior year is usually when you start taking the more major specific classes. So partially, you know, it was time, but also, like I said, I kind of really discovered that I was passionate about specifically learning about the environment. And then also, I knew that I actually went on the UWRF website and I kind of looked at the list of classes that like you were to take if you were environmental science. And I said, okay, these are classes that sound interesting to me. They sound fun. They sound doable. And I said, I think I want this to be my major, you know? And I think that that's kind of like a little bit of a tip that I would give to students is like, look at the classes that you will be taking in a major that you're considering, because if you could see yourself doing those classes and maybe enjoying them, you know, that can totally help you decide, you know, what major you want to do. So a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah.
But so true. And advice, it mirrors advice we would offer, which is awesome. If you're excited about the content, we know we're going to be stressed and we're going to have a lot of learning and a lot of work to do. But at the core, if you're really excited about the content, it may not feel like as much work because you're just really submerged in the content. So that's great advice.
I also wanted to jump in and say that especially if you're between a few majors that all lead to similar careers, that's a really great way to do it too. Look at the classes, which classes would I be most excited to take? So that's a great tip. Thank you, Catherine. And Carter, do you want to tell us a little bit about your decision?
Yeah, so my decision is kind of similar to Catherine's, where I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do post-grad-ish. And there's a lot you can do with finance, but more or less kind of narrowing it down to a specific. And adding on that double major was kind of narrowing it down to more kind of the research area. I've always loved doing financial research on my own, and kind of diving in deeper into it helps a lot. And economics, a lot of the principles and the formulas behind it really add on to make research a lot easier. So it was kind of narrowing it down to how can I add more skills onto my plate and what direction do I want to take it after post-grad.
So Carter, is there anything through the whole process that you wished you would have done differently while you were exploring?
Oh my gosh, yes. Full of regrets. I had no idea that someone like Jessica worked in Student Success Center. So just watching this video and learning about our resources is like the first step, honestly. You don't get as lucky as I did, and you have a professor who would like sit down with you for an hour and talk about all the opportunities you can get with a certain degree. So I really wish I would have known about Jessica sooner, so would have been able to go in and talk with her, even just kind of like running down like where I'm at, where I want to be. and really narrowing down if the majors that I do have are good for me. Obviously now they are good. I've been with it for a year and a half, but yeah, I really wish I had known about that sooner.
Catherine, what about you? Anything you wish you would have done different?
Yeah, I would say that I wish I would have, I guess, expanded my idea of like what major I thought I could do. I think because I knew I was interested in like biology, I felt like for a long time I felt like that was the only thing I could do, you know. And you know, with environmental science too, I was, you know, for a whole year I was considering just like doing lab work, but now I've kind of realized, okay, I'm actually interested in environmental education and that aspect of environmental science, you know, not necessarily just being in a lab and doing tests. So definitely, you know, taking ownership of your major, and because it's your major after all, you know, it's not someone else isn't going to be doing their work for you, and someone else isn't going to be doing the job. Like it's you. So if you know, thought you were set on something, but you have an inkling of an idea of doing something else, explore that, you know, and don't be afraid to, even if it's something totally completely different. I'm an RA, and one of my residents just switched. She was environmental science, but then she switched to exercise science, which is pretty different. But she's like, I took an intro class and I loved it, and I switched. I was like, I'm so proud of her for being able to do that, you know, because that's what college is for. You know, you want to explore, you want to take your options. So yeah.
Totally. Well, and there are disciplines offered here at the institution that are disciplines that as high school students or as transfer students, those disciplines may not have been offered or explored prior to coming here. And so to take advantage of all of the resources and be able to do that deep exploration, I agree, is important. And then you learn fun things in the process.
I agree with that as well. Thank you both for that. Carter, thank you for plugging that students should come and see me. I very much agree. Actually, career services and my office, we hear that a lot from students. I wish I would have done this earlier. I wish I would have come in earlier. Catherine, I loved what you said as well. And one of the things that I or a staff member in career services can help you do as well, if you are someone who has a lot of interests, we can talk about how you can continue to incorporate those interests into your life. So I love science. Science was something that I thought about doing. Ultimately, I decided not a career path for me, but I still read about science. I follow NASA missions, all sorts of things. So that's something we can kind of help you with too. Once you make that decision, if there are other things that you want to continue to be involved in on some level, we can help you figure that out as well. So thank you both for the great advice. Now I'm wondering if you can tell me, what is your favorite thing about the major that you did choose? So Catherine, we'll start with you.
For sure, how hands-on everything is. So one of the things that enticed me about looking at the class list for environmental science majors is a lot of the classes were, you know, lab-based classes where you're doing stuff with your hands, you're engaging with your professor and with your, you know, working in groups of students and stuff. And I love that kind of stuff. You know, lectures are good, lectures are important, you know, like you need that baseline of information, but then getting to apply what you learned like in the field. I mean, especially for environmental science. I mean, one of the reasons I picked this school is because we have the Kinney right there, the river, you know, like there's so many places to be active in, you know, what our major is about. And so that's one of my favorite things, is just how hands-on it is. It's really fun.
Mine was definitely more dealing in the conceptual. Back when I was in high school, I wanted to go into math education. That didn't happen. but being able to kind of be more hands-on with mathematics. Econ's a very math-heavy major, but it's also conceptual. And it's kind of interesting to really like settle into the conceptual and kind of understand everything going on. Especially with COVID, it's been interesting understanding the impacts of every single action that's going on between like vaccine distribution, the initial lockdown, every single kind of bit and piece with that coming out. It was really interesting to learn about, and being where I was in my major at that time, it added more resources and knowledge into it that a majority of my friends and others didn't really get. So it was kind of fun learning it in a different way.
So I guess I'm really excited to talk about what advice you would have for current students that are either in the process of choosing a major, or maybe they're kind of thinking about changing their major. What advice would you offer to those individuals? Carter, why don't you go first?
The biggest piece of advice I can give is give your generals like an actual serious attempt. I know a lot of them are a drag where you're like, oh my gosh, like why am I taking biology? I'm a finance major. That was me last semester. There's a lot of interesting conceptual stuff that you can get with it. I wasn't even considering economics until I took my Econ 200 in one class my freshman year. Wasn't even on the plate. My high school economics class didn't really interest me at the time. There was this requirement to graduate, but once you kind of get deeper in the material and you actually kind of like learn about it and understand it, it creates more of an impact, and you're like, oh, this is more than just like, oh gosh, the Federal Reserve, there's 12 of them. Like there's more of them, and it adds more concepts, more interest to it. And that's the biggest thing.
Besides the obvious, like, you know, utilizing career services and stuff, I would say ask questions. There were a lot of, like, I kind of berated some of my professors, like at community college and even here, just asking, you know, like, what did you major in, and what school did you go to, and when did you decide, you know? And actually in high school, I took AP environmental science, and this was before I even considered environmental science as a major. And I asked my teacher, you know, like where she went and what her college experience was like, and that is kind of that was the first blip of like, okay, environmental science is cool, I like it, and you know, this was her path. And then that led me to ask more questions to different professors and just advisors in general, and then eventually career services. And so yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions, you know, use Google, search, you know, Indeed, and look on forums. Like there's so much information out there, you know, on the internet, but also just people, you know, who are older than you and people who have experienced, you know, having to choose a major and graduating and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, take advantage of your resources.
Well, that's a perfect segue. So, to round out this episode, Jessica and I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about the way our offices can serve those of you that are in the process of either choosing your major or thinking about changing. So in career services, we offer a free interest inventory called the Career Liftoff. And this is going to be an assessment that asks all kinds of questions about different interests, and then provides a personalized report that may help with a starting point if you're not sure of which areas you want to identify for further research. That can be a helpful resource to get you started. The other thing that we have is an online kind of major tool that has all of the River Falls majors built into it, and you can select your interest level in that, and again, it will provide you with a list of the majors at River Falls that are in top consideration for you. And then just friendly people that want to talk and want to help you navigate this process. On average, students change their major at least twice. So it's a completely normal, expected part of the process. And so that's why we're here to kind of help it, because we know that it can generate some nerves. And so we're here to provide that support. To start the process, Falcons, you would go to the Career Services website, and we have a link right on our homepage to schedule an appointment. Once we receive that completed form, we would be in communication to set up an exact time where we would be able to meet with you and interpret your assessment results or help you through the research process. So start early and come in often, because we're excited and eager to help.
I 100% agree with everything McKenna said. And one of the other favorite parts of my job is how closely I get to work with McKenna and her team in Career Services, because they are fantastic. And it's great because we often serve students together. We're able to complement the services that we both offer. The major exploration activity that McKenna talked about, where you go through and indicate your interest, a level in different majors, that's something our offices created together specifically for UW River Falls students. Generally, we find it's easier for students who are completely undecided to identify what they know they do not want to do than it is to know what they do. So that's a great activity to get your process started. On both the Career Services webpage and the Exploratory Advising Program page, you can find additional resources as well. Some of these resources may be helpful even if you have a major, but you're just trying to figure out exactly where you want to position yourself within that career field. And also want to remind everyone that you do not need to be an undecided or exploratory student to meet with me or to use the services that Career Services provides. We work with a lot of students who've declared majors. The professors are fantastic. Carter, you had a great story about your professor talking you through helping. But if you're finding yourself in a major that really isn't related to the other majors you want to explore, you can come talk to us about those. We'll be happy to do that. We encourage that. So please check us out. We hope to see you. We hope to help you and get to know you. It's very exciting for both McKenna and I to work with students when they're deciding who they want to be and what they want to do. So we love being part of that process.
We get to help make dreams come true. We really do have the best job.
We do. And another thing that I want to mention, because I've worked at a few other universities where most of the career exploration is done just out of advising, the fact that we get to partner with Career Services here is a huge advantage to our students, because in addition to deciding your major, we're going to make sure that you're thinking from the beginning about what you want your resume to look like. So it isn't just about choosing the major, it's going to be about the other experiences that you want to have, whether that's internships, whether that's a minor. So right from the beginning, as you're making that decision, we're going to be talking about career competencies and other things that's going to serve you throughout your college career, and then as you graduate and move into the professional world.
Well, Falcons, I hope you're feeling empowered. Don't procrastinate. If you have an inkling, come talk to us. You heard it from both Carter and Catherine, your peers, saying that they would recommend it. So come one, come all. Let's get the major exploration started. Thanks, everybody.